All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jess. I'm co-founder and CEO of Ignite Reading, and I am super happy to be here at Power Trip, my second year in a row. And last night, for those of you who made it in time for dinner, Dana, my colleague, was the ultimate hype woman, and she made me seem really cool. And now you're going to get to see that I am actually a big nerd. So here we go. I want to start with like a little survey around the room. And I would love for you to raise your hand if you have ever been told that you care too much. Okay. What if you've ever been told that you're too empathetic or too kind? Okay. How about that you're too sensitive or, gasp, too emotional? Okay, I see you. So I'm sure you noticed as you looked around the room so many other folks who also had their hands up. And the thing is that you are in a room right now full of people who have the power to do something that is one of the hardest things in the world. To get people to trust you, to follow you, and to give you their very best work in service of accomplishing big, hard things. And you're able to do this because of the caring and the nurturing that is so intrinsic to us as educators. Empathy and kindness in the workplace are often called soft skills, probably because they are largely embodied by women, and we still live in a very sexist society. But these skills are positioned as soft skills because the hard skills are the things like strategic planning or business acumen or the things that like men allegedly do really well. Keyword, allegedly. And they're positioned separately as if they're less than the hard skills. And yet, I believe that to be effective as a leader, you actually need to be able to do both really well. And I also believe that it is possible to be human and to be kind and to also be really good at the hard things that leadership requires. I'm going to tell you my leadership story. And I'll start by letting you in on a secret that I don't think I have ever shared with anyone other than probably my therapist. And that is that I never wanted to be a CEO. I never actually imagined any of this for myself. I mean, yeah, I imagined being on a stage wearing pink, but not as a CEO and not at a leadership conference. And I still think it's really weird that this is my job and that people listen to me all day long. It's a strange thing. And my story begins as a classroom teacher in New York City. And my favorite grade that I taught was first grade. Did anyone else in this room teach first grade? Oh, wow, lots of first grade teachers. That's awesome. Okay, so you know. What about elementary school? Do we have elementary school teachers? Okay, sweet, I see you. Cool. Teaching first grade was really magical for me, especially when I learned how to teach my kids to read. It was the most emotionally gratifying experience and a complete serotonin overflow. And I thought to myself, this is it. This is the only thing I want to do for the rest of my life. And I really felt like I was living my very best life as a first grade teacher. And that was going to be the thing that I would do until the day that I died, because something was ignited in my soul when I taught my babies to read. And then I started thinking about impact, and I started thinking about my desire to help as many kids as possible learn to read. I thought about my own classroom and was like, okay, I can teach 28, 30 kids to read, but I wanted more. And I'm also a yes girl. I say yes to anything, which sometimes gets me in trouble. And I had the opportunity to move into school leadership, and I saw what it was like to then take impact from beyond the four walls of my classroom to an actual school building. And I just kept saying yes. I became a school leader. I was an instructional coach. I coached principals across New York City. And then I co-founded an ed tech company with a literacy app that I designed. And I had the experience of what it was like to go from one student to one classroom to a school building, a city, a state, and then the entire country. And that level of impact was so emotionally intoxicating for me, so deeply purposeful. And then I accidentally became a CEO. I was young, I was a woman, and I was given a lot of advice about how to be a CEO. But all of the examples were men, most of whom were much older than me, and none of whom I related to, like, at all. So I had a choice. I could try to be what everyone expected me to be, or I could lean into my authentic self. And my authentic self actually seemed a lot easier. Rather than be something or someone who I wasn't, I decided to embrace my identities as a woman, an educator, a mother, and a cancer survivor. And I also leaned into other traits that are core to who I am: my kindness, my empathy, my vulnerability, my humanity, my compassion. I openly shared my struggles with mental health, specifically depression and anxiety. I talked about my PTSD from cancer. And I parented on camera because my daughter was 3 at the time, and I was running a virtual company. This was pre-pandemic. And I had Zoom meetings, and I also, at times, needed to be a mom taking care of my baby. And then I leaned into some other things, such as my unapologetic love for Taylor Swift and wearing all the pink all the time. And I did all of this while also still being able to do the really hard things that are also part of leadership. Things like partner negotiations, performance conversations, strategic planning, fundraising, dealing with a difficult board, all of those things. And I had a coach at the time who was a former CEO, and as he watched me lead, I could tell that he was utterly baffled by my approach. And one time in one of our coaching conversations, he said to me, "Jess, I have never seen anyone lead like this." And I'm like what? Because I wanted to hear him say it. And he said, "With this level of vulnerability and kindness, while also being tough as nails. And every instinct I have as I watch you wants to tell you not to lead like this, but I can't because it's working. So you need to keep doing what you're doing. I think this is the future of leadership." And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. The future is female. Anyway, not that I needed his permission to keep leading that way, but it is exactly, in fact, what I kept doing. And in fact, it did work really well. I scaled a national nonprofit called Open Up Resources to be a major player in the K-12 instructional materials market. If you've heard of programs like EL Education or Illustrative Mathematics, Bookworms, just to name a few, those were programs that Open Up Resources brought to market, and they became a significant player in the high-quality instructional materials market. And today, I lead a company called Ignite Reading. And this is my company, built from the ground up with my vision of a world in which we ensure that all kids learn to read on time, which ideally is before the end of first grade. And we just completed our third program year, and here is what we've achieved. By the end of this school year, we had about 16,000 kids in our program, and over the course of the past 3 years, we've served about 50,000 kids nationally. We're in 20 states, actually 21 as of this morning, with Illinois being one of the most recent states, which is very exciting. But the thing that I'm most proud about, which gets at the hard skills, is the outcomes that we've seen for our kids. We serve some of the most at-risk students. We have high populations of students who are multilingual learners. We have lots of students who have IEPs. And when we baselined our kids at the beginning of the program for a study that Johns Hopkins University conducted with almost 2,000 first graders across 13 districts in Massachusetts, only 16% of them were on benchmark. And by the end of the school year, we had moved them to 50% on DIBELS benchmark. So if you know DIBELS, if you know early literacy, you know that this is a very big deal, and it's a very difficult thing to do, particularly when you consider many kids who start the year with gaps. Those gaps tend to go unaddressed, and then they just widen. Well, for these kiddos who participated, we were able to get 50% to benchmark, and 64% who required intensive instruction, who were the most at risk, we decreased to 29%. This is huge. You don't see data like this typically in early literacy. This is the work that we're doing. And we've had staff retention of 95%. And as was shared, we were named one of LinkedIn's top 50 startups. Thank you. And I'm also really proud that we were named a most loved workplace, which is kind of crazy because we are entirely remote. I have almost 200 full-time employees and about 1,300 tutors who are part-time employees. So how have we done this? Well, remember those soft skills that I mentioned at the beginning of this little talk? I credit my company's success that is crucial for children, as a result of my ability to nurture and care for my people in my company in the same way that I cared for my students. I really do believe that everything I've learned about leadership, I learned in my first grade classroom. Here's a small example. Marilyn will appreciate this. When I was a classroom teacher, I used to write handwritten notes to each of my kiddos before the first day of school, sharing with them how excited I was to be their teacher. And now I send welcome notes to our staff members when they are brand new before they even join the team. Because that feeling of being wanted, that feeling of being seen before you even come through the door, that matters just as much to a 35-year-old software engineer as it does to a 6-year-old. And it's the same for our tutors. Our tutors who work with kids who start in basic alphabet knowledge and don't even know their alphabet or their letter sounds, who by the end of a program year are reading sentences and paragraphs and writing thank you notes to their tutors to make them feel seen and to make them feel that deeper sense of belonging as well. In my classroom, we had a birthday chart. I think every teacher probably had a birthday chart in their classroom, and celebrating each child made them feel special, made them feel valued. At Ignite Reading, I remember my staff members' birthdays because people want to feel celebrated, not just at work, but as whole human beings. And that theme of celebration and belonging is also felt by our kids each day in their sessions with their tutors. We used to also do this thing. We did appreciation circles where kids would celebrate one another. And that has turned into something at Ignite Reading that we call positive descriptive praise, or PDP, because, education, we love our acronyms. And it's a way that we regularly take time in meetings, whether it's a weekly all-staff meeting or even smaller team meetings or my executive team meeting. And we personally thank one another and call each other out in expressions of gratitude with very precise things that we're recognizing. And this has created a sense of motivation and belonging that I think is probably one of our strongest cultural practices at Ignite Reading. So I wanted to bring this practice here to you all today at Power Trip. Dana's going to run around the room and throw Post-its on your table. And while she's doing that, I'm going to give you an example of PDP and just how specific it is. And then I want you to think of somebody in this room, bonus points if it's not someone you work with, that you can give PDP to. So here's my first example. PDP to Dana Britt. Happy 1-year meet-iversary. Thank you for sharing your story and being brave. I'm so proud of you and grateful for you. It's been so rewarding to watch you grow and flourish since joining the team. Here is another example. PDP to Debbie and the Power Trip team for supporting me with my unique dietary needs last night. I wasn't sick all over the beautiful sheets, and I woke up this morning ready to kick ass. So those are examples of PDP. You have Post-its. I'm going to give you 1 minute to quickly scribble PDP to someone, and then I'm going to pull you all back together. Go. And then what we're going to do with the PDP, but not just yet. This is the former classroom teacher and me who knows that precious seconds can be lost with messy transitions. So we're just going to hold on to them for right now. But then as soon as I'm finished, your PDP is going to go on that back wall. And Dana's also going to help me, and she'll zip around the room and collect these. And we're going to build the same thing we do at our Ignite Reading staff retreats, a beautiful wall of PDP. And my hope is that over the next couple of days, you keep adding to this wall as you find more and more opportunities to celebrate one another and express your gratitude for one another. And then on Wednesday, before you leave, take your PDP with you. And it's really, really fun to get to see all of the notes that everybody shares, but also I actually keep a journal at home. And it is my PDP notebook, and I now have 3 years of Post-it PDPs. I've also got various screenshots from our internal communication system where we have a PDP board. And in those moments, because we all have them, where you feel like you really suck as a leader or a parent or a human or whatever, it's a great opportunity to reread these notes that people have written you and remind yourself that you are super awesome. So I share all of these things with you, including a concrete, tangible practice that I really hope you bring back to your schools and districts, because it is such a magical way to build belonging. I share these things because joy and connection aren't soft. They are part of the human experience. And I believe that they foster creativity and collaboration. They inspire people to do hard things that are bigger than themselves. And that's the work of education. All day, every day, we are doing so many hard things that are so much bigger than ourselves. And the skills that make an effective educator, the caring, the nurturing, the compassion, the relationship building, the emotional intelligence, the heart, the vulnerability, the authenticity. These aren't things that I had to unlearn in order to become a CEO. These are the things that have made me a highly effective leader. And all of these little things add up to something that is so, so important in the workplace: psychological safety. And what really frustrates me is that these practices and the caring and the nurturing and all of these things that are the soft skills, they are so often diminished in leadership. And yet, how can you possibly have the psychological safety that is necessary to do the big, hard things in order to get crucial outcomes for kids, absent psychological safety? And I often see that these soft skills go wildly unappreciated in female leadership, when in reality, there is actually nothing soft about getting a room full of people to trust you, to share their best ideas with you, to follow you. There's nothing soft about having a hard conversation with grace. There's nothing soft, about waking up each day and leading a school system. And there is definitely nothing soft about envisioning, building, and scaling my own company with a mission I deeply believe in that is literally changing kids' lives each day. And the challenges of running a school system are not that different than the challenges of being a CEO. So here's what I hope that you take away from today, besides this practice of PDP. Your caring is not a weakness. It is your competitive advantage. Your empathy is not too much. In fact, it is exactly what people need, especially right now. And your nurturing approach is not soft. It is the hardest skill to master, and it is the most powerful tool in your leadership toolkit. The next time that someone calls your leadership soft, I hope that you remember that there is nothing soft about getting humans to trust you, follow you, and give you their very best work. The next time that somebody tells you that you care too much or that you're too emotional, I hope that you remember this room full of educators who are changing lives every single day through the power of caring deeply. And the next time that someone suggests that you need to be a little less nurturing to be taken seriously, I hope that you remember that it is nurturing that grows people, that grows organization, and that gets results. My wish for you is that you keep being unapologetically, authentically yourselves, because education is a better place because of it. And what we need are leaders who are not afraid to dim their lights. Thank you. And you can put your PDP on the back wall.